Good morning, my friends. It is Friday, March 20th, and it's our fourth day of learning from home, and it is a very, very rainy day. So it's the perfect kind of day to curl up with a good book. So I've picked out a song tale to read and sing to you. Like I said, this is a song tale, so it's a story that has a melody with it. You'll probably pick up on the melody because it repeats over and over and over again. So sing along with me once you've got it figured out. The title of this tale is There's a Hole in the Bucket. And if you're one of my Daisy choir students, you'll definitely recognize this song. One more thing, this is a special kind of song called a circle song. So while I'm singing it, think about that shape of a circle and see if you can figure out what it means to be a circle song. I hope you enjoy There's a Hole in the Bucket. These illustrations were made by Marissa Madonna, and this song was adapted by John Feierabend for the making of this book. This is There's a Hole in the Bucket. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, a hole. Mend the hole in the bucket, dear Georgie, dear Georgie. Mend the hole in the bucket, dear Georgie, mend the hole. With what shall I mend it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I mend it, dear Liza? With what? With the straw, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, dear Georgie. With the straw, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, a straw. The straw is too long, dear Liza, dear Liza. The straw is too long, dear Liza, too long. Then cut it, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, dear Georgie. Then cut it, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, cut it. Oh, look, I love this illustration. There's a little worm falling out of the hole. Let's see what happens next. With what shall I cut it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I cut it, dear Liza? With what? With a knife, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, dear Georgie. With a knife, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, with a knife. The knife is too blunt, dear Liza, dear Liza. The knife is too blunt, dear Liza, too blunt. That means it's too dull. Whet the knife then, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, dear Georgie. Whet the knife then, dear Georgie, dear Georgie. Whet the knife. With what shall I wet it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I wet it, dear Liza? With what? With a stone, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, dear Georgie. With a stone, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, a stone. The stone is too dry, dear Liza, dear Liza. The stone is too dry, dear Liza, too dry. Wet the stone then, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, dear Georgie. Wet the stone then, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, wet it. With what shall I wet it, Dear Liza, with what shall I wet it? Dear Liza, with what? With the water, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, with the water, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, the water. With what shall I get it? Dear Liza, with what shall I wet it? Dear Liza, with what? With the bucket, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, with the bucket, dear Georgie, dear Georgie, the bucket. But there's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, there's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, oh. And that is the end. Poor Liza. It's just a never-ending story. Do you see now why it's called a circle song? Because it just keeps going around and around and around, and it never stops. We come right back to the very beginning. I hope you enjoyed There's a Hole in the Bucket, and I hope you find a good story to read today on this rainy day. Have a good day, everyone.